Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining us on the Newsmaker line is one half of the MLW World Tag Team Champions. I, of course, am speaking about the former WWE superstar, Donovan Dijak. Are you with me, sir?
I am with you. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you on. I'm doing great. And a lot of complications getting into this one, but I'm glad we got it going, and it's a pleasure to have you on. As I mentioned off air, my son is extremely excited that Dad gets to interview somebody that he looks up to and thinks of as one of his favorites. So that's very, very cool for me.
What was his, you said he's 16, so what was his, what version of me did he consume that he really enjoyed? Was he like a black and gold kid or something?
He was a black and gold kid a little bit. I watched a lot of stuff on YouTube, but what he has had me watch a lot is the stand and deliver match that you had. Ironically, not long before you left WWE. Yeah, that's the one that makes sense. Put on the most.
Yeah, I guess the timing is right for the whole white and gold run. So yeah, it feels so recent to me, but we are creeping up on that run started now at the end of 2022. So I guess we're coming up on 3 years removed from the beginning of that. So yeah, that would be like kind of the beginning of his teenage years, I guess. So yeah, totally makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, here we are. And you are now a part of Major League Wrestling, a promotion that has roots that go back all the way to 2002. MLW's been tearing it up lately. What is it like working with Court Bauer and MLW?
Absolutely incredible. I said it yesterday. I watched some reviews online that called it like a car crash that you can't look away from, and I think that's such an incredible compliment, especially in today's day and age where pro wrestling is like incredibly sort of repetitive and formulaic, and you see like a lot of the same concepts and storylines again and again and again. So for MLW, we give you just, it's exactly what I just said, a car crash, right? You get all sorts of different, like last show we did a segment where I attacked a 6'11" masked monster with a pumpkin. So there's just all sorts of ridiculous. I think he murdered someone in an electric chair. So if you're looking for something that is just wildly different than anything you've ever seen in the landscape of pro wrestling, plus the addition of myself, which is the best pro wrestler on planet Earth, so you're getting some of the, if not the greatest professional wrestling on planet Earth, all combined into one package. That's what you're getting with MLW. That's what you're getting with Major League Wrestling. And Court Bauer has brought such a unique and diverse array of talent, recognizable names, new names, all of the above, and it's all kind of stirred into this crazy pot. And what you get is you get one of the best shows. You get the best show on planet Earth. So definitely check it out. We've got some incredible shows coming up.
It's coming into holiday season, and I've heard it described as this before. Probably not a name that the guys that work there love, but it's kind of like the island of misfit toys to some extent. You've got
I don't mind that. I don't mind that name at all. Listen, the last thing we want to do is try to be like everybody else, right? If you want those, I've worked for all the companies, so if you want those other versions of professional wrestling, you got it. You don't need a fifth option. What you do need another option for is something different, right? So if you want things that stand out for being different, if you want people who didn't fit in somewhere else but fit in here, that's what you're getting with MLW. So if you want a true alternative, this is the only true alternative on planet Earth right now. I mean, think about all the companies that used to be alternatives. They all got bought out. Everything's owned by a billionaire in some capacity, right? Name a company that isn't now. I can tell you one, MLW. So that's what you're getting at this point. Or at least someone who's not in bed with a billionaire, right? Like every top company in the world is they're all collaborating with each other in some capacity now. So MLW, we have the greatest island of misfit toys you could ever feast your eyes on. So I think it's a top promotion. You should definitely check it out.
Very cool. And I mentioned that because there are complicated personalities that work in MLW that didn't work elsewhere, like Matt Riddle, somebody that you've been in the ring with in MLW many times. Like they just brought him back for at least one show, was Austin Aries. And these are guys with big personalities that maybe their personalities don't work in the corporate environment. Is it because it's a little more laid back? Is that why they work in MLW?
I think I don't know if I'd use the term laid back. That kind of insinuates that like we don't care. Like we do care.
No.
Obviously, the locker room. I will say this. I can't speak about the political and the PR piece of everything and why someone doesn't work at another company. I know nothing about that. I just know what I experience in the locker room. And in the locker room, we have one of the best locker rooms in the world that I've ever been in. I've been in most locker rooms, so I at least know someone who's been in most locker rooms, even in present day. And the MLW locker room is a wonderful place to be. It's a lot of unique personalities with strong opinions, but it's not like cliquey. Nobody hates each other. We're not all backstabbing each other. There's not any of that stuff happening. So yeah, I very much enjoy my time at the MLW locker room. It feels like everybody's working together to put on the best show possible, and what else can you ask for?
Exactly. And Bishop Dyer is your tag team partner in your
Yes.
tag team championship run. How are you enjoying tagging with him, and what is your thoughts on him as your tag team partner?
Just an unbelievable person, a great professional wrestler, a great businessman, and just a great human being to be around. I had the great fortune of being around him in NXT from 2023 to 2024. So we got to wrestle each other. I got to be around him when he was doing his tag team stuff with Braun Breaker. So I've seen him in a tag team capacity. I just know that he's an unbelievably talented person who is always incredibly willing to get the business that's presented to him over. I think that shouldn't be understated. In a world of professional wrestling where everybody's kind of looking out for themselves for the most part, and rightfully so, right? It's a business where you have to do that, or you're going to get kind of caught in the meat grinder. But he's just the kind of person who, no matter what you give him, he's willing to do it, and he's willing to try to make it better. And that's such a valuable asset. It's really an overlooked asset in the world of professional wrestling because there's not enough guys who can do that, right? And I think a lot of companies just look at that and go, we can get anybody to do that. Well, the reality is you can't. Not at that level. And he's right at the top of that list of people. I think if you ask anyone who's ever worked with him, they'd all agree with that sentiment.
I would absolutely agree with that sentiment, and I'm a big fan of what you guys are currently doing. So I like to look at the origins of how people look at wrestling, because I've listened to several of your interviews, and you don't look at it the same way that maybe my next interviewee would be looking at it.
Okay.
Where did your love for professional wrestling start? What was your first favorite, and how did you fall in love with this whole business?
So I have an older brother. My brother's name is Jason, and he's 3.5 years older than me. So as a kid growing up in the 90s, I pretty much just did whatever my older brother did. Like, he started playing basketball, I started playing basketball. He started playing football, I started playing football. He started watching wrestling, so I started watching wrestling. And he started watching wrestling in early 1998. That's when I started watching pro wrestling on Monday Night Raw. And so that was right in the heart of Stone Cold Steve Austin's sort of meteoric rise that, quite frankly, has never ended. He's still probably the top and most over guy in the pro wrestling world. So yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin was absolutely my guy as a kid growing up. And even when he turned heel, I was like, nah, I'm not just gonna like abandon you. Like, you're still my guy, So that I think a lot of people felt the same way around that WrestleMania 17 heel turn, which is why it was sort of we all kind of wanted him to still be a good guy.
Exactly. It's so cool that you say that, because I'm a little bit older than you, and I was 15 when Hulk Hogan turned heel, and he was my guy. And I'm like, you know what? All right, I'll put down the yellow shirt and give me a black one.
Right, exactly. I think a lot of people made that decision too. I mean, there's a reason that the top selling T-shirts in the world are still NWO T-shirts and still Stone Cold Steve Austin T-shirts. I mean, we're 25, 30 years removed at this point now, and but that's just the way it is. Pro wrestling is a very nostalgic environment. People remember stuff from the past very fondly. I hope that somewhere in that realm, like in 20 or 30 years, people think of NXT Black and Gold that same way, and maybe I can, have a run as like a memory of people. that would be nice. But yeah, we'll see.
All right, so I got to ask you about your first impressions of going to WWE. I'm going to ask it this way. I used to do a show with a former wrestling diva, and she finally made it to WWE after a long time. And I asked her once after she left, I said, how was it? What was the experience like? She's like, it's like going down the yellow brick road and finding out that the great and powerful Oz is just a man. Obviously, her view of it wasn't a positive experience, but what was your first thoughts when you got to WWE and you got to see the big production trucks and the lights and the glamour of what was WWE, especially NXT at that point?
So my introduction was more of a gradual introduction, right? I wasn't just thrust into the spotlight of Monday Night Raw, which obviously can be incredibly overwhelming. And I don't know who you're talking about, but I'm just assuming that's what happened, because that's what happened to a lot of young women that were brought into the Monday Night Raw scene. They were just kind of like not even wrestlers, or maybe they trained for a little bit to be wrestlers, and then it was like boom, all of a sudden you're on Monday Night Raw inexplicably like the next week. For me, it was a much more gradual.
It was Francine from ECW.
Okay, then that's not the case at all, because she was she was the exact opposite. But yeah, no, I can see how it would be overwhelming. But I mean, for me, it was much more of a gradual process, even in the WWE landscape, right? Like I had the introduction to television from my time in Ring of Honor, and then Ring of Honor kind of transitioned into Full Sail NXT, which was similar, just to a wider audience on Hulu, and then the Hulu audience turned into a cable audience, but it was the same platform, the same people and stuff. And then that transitioned to Monday Night Raw, but my introduction to Monday Night Raw was in front of nobody, right in front of these Thunderdome screens and stuff like that. And then that finally turned into, okay, now you're on the full stage of Monday Night Raw, but still you're not like in a main event or anything. You're not doing anything tremendously important. It's just kind of like these throwaway tag team things in the middle of the show, which I took incredibly seriously. But it was all very, very gradual, as opposed to sort of being thrust into the spotlight. And I got a gradual introduction to Triple H. I got a gradual introduction to Vince McMahon. So for me, it was all very gradual, right? I got a lot of sort of, I guess, leeway, for lack of a better term, in terms of like how I was progressing throughout WWE. So there was never any moment where I was just like completely overwhelmed with any singular moment. But yeah, there were for sure moments where it was like, okay, like this feels like this big sort of like huge production fantasy land. But at the end of the day, yes, it does give you perspective that it boils down to like, this is just one dude's opinion. He's just a dude. So like, it's a lot of it becomes sort of navigating interpersonal relationships more so than like climbing the corporate ladder or something like that, if that makes sense.
Very good. And one of the first guys that you worked under was the guy who your favorite, Steve Austin, beat at WrestleMania 14. Of course, I'm talking about Shawn Michaels. I do a lot of interviews with legends. Of course, everybody's opinions differ on Shawn Michaels. He's a controversial guy, to say the least. What was your experience like learning under Shawn Michaels, and did you take any takeaways that you still use today from the Heartbreak Kid?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, like everything else in WWE, my introduction to Shawn was gradual. I think the first time I ever spoke to him was when we were doing a combine at the Performance Center, because he just wasn't around a lot at that point, but he was floating around for some combine thing we were doing, and he was like going and like helping out and getting the medicine balls and stuff. So I was like, thank you, nice to meet you, or whatever. And then the next time I had a conversation with him, he was the agent for my match with the Velveteen Dream, which was my first match on NXT television. So I got to speak with him in that capacity, which was nice. And then, we just started to, speak more and more as I was on TV more and more. And then eventually in 2019, he became my full-time coach at the Performance Center. So that's when I started to, really get to sit under his learning tree and learn from him as a producer and as a coach. And then, we built that relationship over time, and then I was gone to Monday Night Raw, and then when I came back, he was the head honcho in NXT, so I got to continue to build that relationship because I was one of the more utilized, talent in that run, which I already mentioned started in 2022. So yeah, over the course of that sort of almost 3-year window, our relationship grew, and I was no one wanted to pick from Shawn's brain more than me. And not just in terms of the wrestling, because he's unbelievably helpful with the wrestling, but he's also like grounded and aware that like I'm going to wrestle a style that's different than his style, so he's going to give me the reins to sort of understand, like, hey, this, like, a big man would sell this differently and different things like that. But he's also so knowledgeable in terms of, like, getting more out of moments, and I feel like that is where he's, you know, really stands out as the greatest wrestler of all time. Because in my opinion, he's the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. But you know, the in-ring wrestling covers a million different things, right? There's all sorts of different aspects of pro wrestling, but his really sort of like shining beacon is like being able to get the most out of moments, and that's why I would lean on him tremendously in terms of helping me as a director and a producer. Is I would go to him and bounce my ideas off him, and he would always come back with something that was even better, and I really appreciated that about him.
Very cool. I promise we will come back to MLW in just a moment, but can I ask you a little bit about Retribution?
Sure.
All right. So one day we all woke up and we were in our favorite 70s sci-fi movie, and the world was shut down. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't go anywhere. But the one thing that persisted was pro wrestling, and even though I was cynical at the time, the Thunderdome at least tried to simulate a live crowd. It was interesting. Yep. Could anything at all have succeeded in that environment, the storyline-wise?
Oh, absolutely. Lots of things did succeed in that environment. There's many things that began in the Thunderdome that sort of grew and flourished over time. Obviously, Retribution was not one of them, right? I think Retribution had potential to be something really unique and interesting. I think we would have needed to tweak a few things, and I think the tweaking process would have been easier in front of a live crowd, because then we have the sort of proof of concept to say, like, oh, they like this, let's try this, or oh, they like that, can we do this? And then but in the Thunderdome, it's just kind of, you know, the opinion of one, and how can you change that opinion, because there's not, you know, it's pre-programmed screens or whatever, you know, making faces or whatever. It's like, I can't be like, yeah, the crowd really likes that, like, who cares, the crowd's fake, you know. So it became sort of an uphill battle in that capacity. So yeah, there's certainly things that began in the Thunderdome that did flourish over the course of time. I don't think anything was going to sort of begin and, you know, sort of grow and flourish and succeed all within the confines of the Thunderdome, because that's just not how pro wrestling works. You need it to be exposed to a live audience to get sort of different feedback and things like that.
Perhaps it's because of the day of Google, and now we know everything. Like I mentioned, I just had on Barry Darso, and immediately as a kid, I didn't go, oh, Repo Man is Smash. I didn't get that right away. You figured it out eventually, but T-Bar, we could tell was you. I mean, not just because of the internet and the dirt sheets and all that, but it was pretty clear that's you. Did you like taking a different name, or was it kind of just being a happy worker and doing what you're told?
So the interesting part about T-Bar, right? And honestly, like, part of me wants to give Vince credit for this, because what Vince wanted was, he basically wanted a bunch of unknown people to come in and fill this role, right? And the reality of that situation is that, like, I wanted to fill that role. I was volunteering for it. Obviously, I didn't know what it would become, right? Like, the word T-Bar didn't exist when I was making this pitch. The masks didn't exist when I was making this pitch. The face paint didn't exist. All we saw was, like, an invasion angle. And I was like, cool, I want to do this. I want to be part of that. And I know that Vince, in some capacity, just wanted, like, random people to populate this. And so I was like, cool, I'm random people. But the reality is that I wasn't random people. Like, I wasn't, Mia Yim wasn't. Even Dio Madden had been an announcer on, this is Mace, my tag team partner. He'd been an announcer on Monday Night Raw. Shane Thorne he'd been on NXT takeovers before, right? And so NXT at that point had grown to the point where all of us were at least mildly recognizable, right? Which is different than, like, Glenn Jacobs becoming, you know, he was Isaac Yankem and then he's Kane, right? No one's going to connect those dots, because, like, you don't really notice or care, and the mask covers up more, and is that his physique? Yeah, there's lots of big jack guys, who knows? It's kind of apples to oranges comparison wise. But in terms of what we were, the spot that we were in and what was presented, yeah, the second we came out, even with the masks on, everyone was like, okay, I know who all those people were. So in that aspect, I think Vince was probably right in that would have been more well suited for, like, if you just got 4 like random NXT, like kind of what they're doing with Dark State right now, right? Not that those people are being reinvented, but had you reinvented them with masks, like it's an easier pill to swallow to say. I'll give you a great example.
Okay.
Let's pretend that Obafemi had been on NXT for a long time without the accent that he has right now. Because a lot of people think that's his real accent. It's not his real accent. The reason you think it's his real accent is because he's only been presented as that. So that's all you know. So it's cool. That's awesome. It's unique. It makes him unique. I think Retribution had the potential to be cool and awesome and unique if it were just 4 people who you didn't know, right? Because, like, who are these people? They're just masks. We don't know who they are. But the secret was already out. Everybody already knew who we were, so it's not really a secret anymore. So it's just kind of lame at that point. And so in a way, Vince was right in that, you know, it probably should have been just random people, and that would have been better conceptually. But I was kind of pushing and pressing so hard for it because we wanted to make it work. Because, you know, again, I didn't have the full picture. I didn't have the full vision of his idea at the time. And then once it happened, then it was just, you know, kind of time to try and make it work, which in hindsight, obviously it didn't work too well, but it did keep us employed for, you know, a number of years, which is good. Especially at that time. Yeah, especially during the pandemic when lots of people weren't employed. So there's pros and cons to everything, right? Could it have worked in a different universe? Absolutely. Anything can work in a different universe. Could it have worked in that universe? Yeah, probably. I mean, if you push us super hard and give us all championship belts, everything will get over if you do that. So, but obviously that's a big ask. So, you know, it's just varying situations. I mean, that's all pro wrestling is. It's all timing.
If you can hear a glint in the eye over the phone, I think I heard a little bit of that with your Stand and Deliver match. The Obafemi, you just mentioned him, and Josh Briggs match that you had.
Yep.
Would that go down at this point so far as one of your favorite matches, especially in the WWE?
Yes. It's not my favorite match. My favorite match is the Iron Survivor Challenge from Deadline 2023. That's my favorite match of all time. But in terms of like the accolades that I've gotten from pro wrestling, my biggest accolade in pro wrestling is winning 2024 NXT Match of the Year. Because to me, that's not something that's given to me. That's something that's earned, right? Awesome. People, especially pro wrestlers, we like to think of like championships and accolades as things we've earned, which I guess sometimes is the case, but sometimes it's not the case. It's really just a prop for a storytelling mechanism. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So, like, I can't control that. I can't control how I fit into the storyline or something else that somebody writes. What I can control is my performance, right? And if my performance is received well and it's given an accolade that, you know, I wasn't even there to receive, right? I wasn't even on the roster when they decided that I was the 2024 Match of the Year. And they is the crowd. It's the people. It's not like the owners of the company or whatever. It's just the people decided that. To me, that's the most important thing that's the biggest accomplishment of my run in WWE. I'm incredibly proud of that. And frankly, I'll give credit where credit is due. The WWE management that I spoke of, which again is probably, you know, Shawn Michaels and Matt Bloom, who are, you know, friends of mine, they didn't have to do that, right? There's probably pressure not to do that, to be honest, right? You don't want to feature a guy who's no longer on your roster and say like, hey, Match of the Year could go to a guy who's not even here anymore. They didn't have to do that, and they did, and I appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that from whoever made those decisions, because I assume that's a decision that had to be made at some point. So I'm very thankful that they gave me that opportunity.
Beautiful. And we mentioned you're in MLW now. The I'm going to say independent. I don't know if MLW likes that term or not, but the independent scene is a little different now than when you first signed with WWE because of the existence of the AEW brand, which signed up the majority of the available talent, or at least a good portion of them.
Yep.
What is the experience like on the independent circuit now versus when you left it when joining WWE?
Like you mentioned, it's dramatically different, right? There's just a lot of different variables that need to be controlled, right? Obviously, AEW gives a platform that's incredible, but also sort of versatile in that, I've been on shows with guys who are signed full time to AEW. That's an option that a lot of them have. Not all of them. I think there's a handful of guys that have exclusive contracts, but most of them can wrestle outside of AEW, and I think that's cool. TNA, same thing. So it's nice. It's nice that even WWE to a certain extent. There's not a lot of it, but there's a handful of guys that have done some independent wrestling days. When I was in WWE, that was unheard of, right? In my 7 years there was probably 1 or 2 times where anybody on the roster was able to wrestle outside of WWE, and it was like very extenuating circumstances. So yeah, to me, the indies right now, as opposed to 2017, are dramatically different, right? Because there's all this volatility, there's all this back and forth, but at the same time, there's almost like it's a much younger sort of crowd because you don't have as many of the, like me, for example, you don't have as many of me. Whereas in 2017, there was a lot more of the, the journeyman, like I've been here, I've been there, and now I'm here sort of types. Now the vast majority of those people are signed to some company in some capacity, which is it's a double-edged sword for me. There's a lot of positivity to that because it gets me more work, it gets me more bookings, right? If a promoter can look at the field and say, okay, this guy's available, and this guy's available, but the first 2 are one signed to AEW and one signed to TNA, and then there's me, and they know that I'm not going to pull off their show. Like, no one's going to call me last minute and bring me onto a mysterious TV taping that appeared out of nowhere. Then that makes me a more sort of reliable commodity, which is positive for me as a performer. So yeah, there's pros and cons to everything, but I'm really enjoying it. I think the different landscape is, it's like anything else in pro wrestling. It's a double-edged sword. There's pros and cons.
Very cool. And MLW has a working relationship with CMLL. You've spent a lot of time working for CMLL as well since your WWE departure. Is it different working in front of a Latin American, a Spanish-speaking crowd versus speaking, in the United States?
Dramatically different. They're almost caught in a time capsule in a way. It's like wrestling for like an American crowd in like the early 90s, right? It's just they're infatuated with the idea of good guy and bad guy, unless it's been driven to them in some other capacity where that's no longer the case, and then they are feverishly against it, and there's no changing their mind. They're just a very passionate crowd. By my experience, the most passionate crowd I've ever been in front of, and I've been in front of tons of passionate crowds before. It's a whole different ball game. They're very, very supportive of most of the luchadors, which is great for me because I just come in and I present as the exact opposite. I say I'm the greatest luchador in the world, and they boo the ever-living God out of me, and I get booed out of the building, and it's just a fabulous experience. But then at the same time, like, we finish the show and I go outside the arena and there's this mob of people who all, want to take pictures and take autographs. It's just a real throwback place, right? They're not worried about tweeting about the show. They're not worried about whether they're getting on TV or not. They're there. They're in the arena. The arena's packed. It's full. They're waiting for Mystico to come out. It's just a wonderful environment, and they just love pro wrestling. They love cheering the guys they like and booing the guys they hate, and that's it. That's the end of the story.
Very cool. Your next MLW Tag Team title defense, I'm going to do my Peggy Hill Spanish here because I don't speak it very well, is MLW versus Don Gato, Lucha de los Muertes. I think I did okay on that, actually. You're going to be facing the Good Brothers. And that's right. Going to be an interesting tag team title match. What's your thoughts heading into that big event?
Super excited. First time ever matchup between the Skyscrapers and the Good Brothers. First time matchup for me against either of them. I've actually never wrestled either of them, which is a rarity kind of in my career. I'm sort of the guy who's, worked for every company and wrestled everybody in every company, especially in singles matches. So for me to get, a first time matchup in this day and age is super exciting for me, especially on the biggest stage that we have, which is MLW, and for the biggest prize that we have in the tag team world, which is the MLW World Tag Team Championships. It's very exciting. I think it's an incredible matchup. I think there's nowhere else on the planet where you get wrestlers with this level of experience and this level of size. I think size is a big thing that's not super prevalent nowadays as much as it was 15, 20, 25 years ago. In professional wrestling, you're going to have three guys who are all 6'9" or bigger in the ring all at the same time. You can't get that anywhere else in the world right now. So if you like big man wrestling, if you like good, experienced big man wrestling, you're going to get some of the best premium big man wrestling in pro wrestling history on Thursday at MLW. It's going to be excellent.
Very cool. And this will be I have two final questions for you. One's shorter and one's longer. You have time for those?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the longer question might have been a throwaway for somebody else, but you are, like I said, a little bit more introspective. You look at things a little differently. Mm-hmm. What's your future goals in the world of pro wrestling?
Ooh, that's a great question. Continue to create a brand for myself, a new brand. I want to rebrand myself, and it's an interesting process for me, right? Because there's this sort of transition between like what I was before, right? Because there's different levels, and I've changed characters so I don't want to say frequently, because I spend years on these things at a time, right? I was Donovan Dijak for 5 years, and then I was Dominic Dijakovic for 3 years, and then I was T-Bar for 3 years, and then I was Dijak for 2 years, and now I've been this version of Donovan Dijak for a year, almost a year and a half at this point. So I'm continually rebranding, sometimes, by force, but sometimes by choice. And I want to continue that process. I don't want to rest on my laurels, because I feel like my laurels will never be good enough, right? I don't want to just say, oh, I was on TV as this, so that's what I'm going to keep doing. There's definitely a transitionary process of that, and I don't think that we've gotten all the juice out of the squeeze on this current version of the character, but I want to continue to show what I truly believe in my heart of hearts, which is that I am the best professional wrestler on planet Earth. And I need to do that by establishing myself as a top competitor, as a person who wins prestigious world championships like the MLW World Championship, like the MLW World Tag Team Championship. And I want to defend those across the world, in Mexico, in Canada, in Japan, in Europe, all over the world. And I want to continue to prove why I believe that I and MLW are the greatest professional wrestling on planet Earth.
Beautiful. And I used to end my interviews with a word association. I don't do that anymore because I found it was ticking guys off. I'm going to ask you a complicated one, and it doesn't have to be a one-word answer, but if it is, then it is. That is the controversial former Ringling Brothers leader, if you will, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Vince McMahon.
Yeah. What are my thoughts on him?
What is your thoughts on Vince McMahon overall?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting. I think the best sort of synopsis and analysis of Vince is that he is, because like almost everybody who's anybody in the world of pro wrestling was given something from Vince McMahon, including myself, right? And I'm on the lower end of that, right? Like I didn't get much from Vince, to the point where I cursed him out every time I showed up to work, right? Me and Ali would sit in the locker room saying like, we're screwed. We never have a chance with this guy. He doesn't get it. He's like that. This was our weekly, that was our weekly, work, at Monday Night Raw. That being said, I'm thankful for the opportunity, obviously. Like I was, like I mentioned, I was employed at a time when a lot of people were losing their jobs. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the fact that I was given multiple opportunities, even when some of them didn't go well. In terms of his sort of like creative contribution to me, the current character that I do, like right now, like this sort of justice character that has like this law enforcement sort of vibe, with the black leather and the sunglasses, and like I'm gonna go do it tonight, right? I'm gonna go, monetize this character literally after I hang up the phone with you. that started with Vince McMahon. So I'm not going to pretend that didn't happen just because he's, not a great.
He was a bad boy or whatever.
Yeah, not so great person, right? Right. That being said, I'm not going to pretend that those things didn't happen. I'm a criminal justice major, so innocent until proven guilty. I don't know. I didn't see any of these things happen. It sounds like they probably did, so I'm not like gonna go be his friend or something, because they're horrible accusations, and if you put a gun to my head, they probably happened. So I'm not like a I don't think he's a good person or anything, but I'm also not going to discount, the positives that I got from him. And again, we didn't have like a ton of interactions. I probably spoke to him, 10 times in my entire life, and it was always like, hey, good match. Okay, good. Thanks. What can I do to get a push? Oh, we'll figure it out. So that's the extent of our relationship. So we weren't like close or anything, but like I did have that one conversation that led to my current character. And, he's just a very creative, very troubled mind, I guess, would be the synopsis.
I'm going to leave you with this question/thought, and then I promise we'll let you go because I kept you a little longer than I should have. I apologize. Jim Cornette always makes a point of, he uses your longer name, Dijakovic, but he also always praises you. He always says, if they couldn't find a way to use that guy, then who can they find a way to use? That compliment coming from a guy who's very critical, what does that mean to you?
I like Jim a lot. We've met maybe like once or twice, a handful of times, and he's always been a big supporter of mine, and I'm very appreciative of that. Again, he's very polarizing, very controversial. I don't by any stretch of the imagination agree with everything he says, but I do appreciate that he has this old school mentality. Jim reminds me a lot of Terry Taylor. I have no idea whether they love or hate each other. I have no idea. Probably one or the other.
He calls him a stooge, so I don't think he loves him too much.
Regardless of that, they remind me of each other in that they're both, all in on old school fundamentals mentalities. Obviously, I'm not, right? Anyone who's watched any of my matches knows that I'm doing, I'm a big guy doing flips off the top rope and, no selling stuff and things like that. But everything I do is rooted in psychology and making it make sense. I just want old school and new school to combine. I don't want it to be like us versus them. So when I hear guys like Terry Taylor, when I hear guys like Jim Cornette talk about the fundamentals and the old school and the storytelling version of it, I dive headfirst into that and I say, okay, how can I make that work with what I like to do as well and make it merge into one sort of presentation that satiates all of it, right? It gives the people who like, new innovative stuff something to watch, but it also makes sense from a psychology standpoint. I've never viewed pro wrestling as like this us versus them thing. So when I hear someone like Jim Cornette give me praise for my style or a match, that makes me proud, just as proud as it does for someone like Dave Meltzer to give me praise, because I know he's on the other side of the fence, right? He likes the high flying and the high octane and the no selling, and he loves all that, the longer matches, the stipulations, things like that. And I like that too. I like all of it. So I want as big of a field to watch my presentation and say, ooh, he does something for me, and I like that, because that's what pro wrestling is, right? I just want everyone to watch it and enjoy it. I want the most people to consume my product and say, that this is why I like this, right? And I feel like Jim is an important piece of that puzzle, and we shouldn't just throw it away and discount it because he's so, sort of polarizing.
Exactly.
Which I get is that's easier said than done, right? There's some people that he lays into, and it's like, okay, those are people that I like, and I disagree with him. And if I were those people and he was laying into me, I'd probably be like, F you, Jim. But, I'm trying because there are people. There's lots of people out there who watch my pro wrestling and say, this guy's terrible. He's nonsense. He's a big guy that does flips. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has no psychology. And that's fine. I used to get so mad at those people, and now I don't, because it's a subjective art form. It'd be like if I looked at the Mona Lisa and said that's a terrible painting. Okay, I'm not wrong, right? But other people like
your opinion,
that's
right?
Okay, yeah. It's just my opinion. So that's how I consume pro wrestling critique and feedback.
Man, I could keep you on the phone all day, but I promise I won't. I just wanted to thank you for taking this much time and doing this with me. And like I said at the beginning, I'll say it now. You have a very different approach and look at wrestling, and I think a lot of people can learn from you. You're very, very insightful. I really appreciated this, and this was an awesome conversation. Thank you for doing it with me.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words.
All right. Hey, before I let you go, do you mind if I ask for a favor?
Absolutely.
Just a radio ID, a liner, if you will, just saying this is Dijak and you're listening to Wrestling Epicenter.
Sure, you got it.
You want to do the Wayne's World countdown thingy?
Please.
All right, we'll do that in 5, 4, 3.
Hey, this is pro wrestling superstar Donovan Dijak, and you are feasting your ears on... Is it Pro Wrestling Epicenter?
It's just Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. Okay, got it.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll do it in 5, 4, 3.
Hey, this is pro wrestling superstar Donovan Dijak, and you are feasting your ears on Wrestling Epicenter.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, for us.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
You maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Mania runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey guys, we had a lovely conversation.
First lady.
Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive
Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling.
Epicenter.
Oh my God! You win! Wow, being interactive.
Whoa! I just got some listen. I was gonna shoot him. Yeah, I almost pissed my pants. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. Excuse my language. You're gonna go to the shop. Plenty of no. Into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's gonna be cool. Woo! What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Rock and roll. Arrogant.
You're listening to me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So Lindley without you.
Yeah.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire.
I'm not
bad.
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge. You're where it's at. You better recognize who's the best. Make sure you tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer. Knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm going to kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line. Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.